There you have it. It's coming along. Do the other side. Draw that line, follow the curve. As I mentioned, this is going to be about a 1/4 inch, I think. Let me just double check. Yeah, a 1/4 inch from the edge. Alright, you're going to apply glue to these areas. First, start off with the first layer panel, and then you could also apply the glue onto this as well, but you will need to put additional glue onto this panel so that the upper layer will adhere to it. Alright, when gluing these pieces, make sure you have an exact mirror of the pieces that you are working with. It is very easy to get confused while doing this because you get something distracts you, or you look somewhere else, or I know I would get confused. But you want to make sure you have an exact mirror image of this, because if you end up gluing the wrong side of these pieces, you end up with two of the same exact piece. You don't want that. You have to have a left and a right when you're doing this. So make sure you lay it out and you have your flat pieces mirrored out. Before I apply this piece, I need to first make sure I apply glue to this, because this is going to overlay on top of it. What I want to do now is take my pattern. I did make dotted lines on there, so you can just fold it and get a good general idea of where that overlaying piece will sit on top of this. See that? Alright, for the next piece we'll be using your standard EVA foam, and this is the side cheek panel here. You're going to want to cut this piece out. You won't really need that. This way you find out where exactly to place this pattern when making this piece here. So you cut out this piece here for the placement of this design. There you have it. You'll take this and you'll flip it over to make another pattern for the other side of the helmet. When tracing this out, you don't need to trace this. This is just a place marker for the tab that will go here as well. You can cut that out just like the other one. So you can trace out where exactly to apply the glue and apply that tab. when putting this to the helmet, this seam will glue together. Alright, so I've got the left and the right pieces done. You're going to want to cut this side out, but I would not suggest using one of these. The reason for that is the wider blade will make it difficult to follow this curve a little more as accurately as possible. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you don't have access to a smaller blade, because we will be sanding this area down anyway, and so it's not really that much of a difference. It just makes things easier, less sanding, if you use a smaller blade for this. Alright, here's the blade I'm using. You can see the size difference. Make sure it's really sharp. It'll just make it easier. Alright, before applying glue to this, you're going to want to hit it with the heat gun and give it a little bit of a natural curve to go along with the helmet. Alright, this next piece is this back design here. When you cut this out, you want to cut out the entire thing so it can use it as a guide. You won't need this top part though, you only need this bottom half. Alright, when you cut this out, you're going to want to cut this piece off of it. These will not be together in one single unit. When it goes onto the helmet, it'll be two pieces of 2mm foam. And you're going to want to fold at this top line here, because you don't, again, this is just a guide. Like so. Alright, once I've cut out the pattern for the back, I pin it on the way I was doing with the other ones. I draw it out, same with this piece. This does come apart, and it is split right in the middle here. So I'm keeping it together for now for gluing purposes. But as soon as I apply glue to this, or the barge, I will cut the middle piece out. Alright, next you're going to take these patterns. These are for the details. This is the earpieces. There's disc 1 and disc 2. You're going to use 4mm foam for both of these, as well as this here. I do that by sandwiching the 2mm foam to make the 4mm, and I just cut it out from there. Right, for the last few details, after you've cut them out, take in a single sheet of 2mm. I put barge cement all over it, folding it over so I get an easy 4mm. You'll need one for each side of this, basically this little detail here. This section will be the area where the glue will go. It basically, I don't know if you can see that in there. You'll need the disc 1. That is here. The cutout here is the inner disc, which is also another 4mm piece of foam. And finally, you'll need 4 of these tabs. This here. You can see them inside here, kind of. Right here and here. as I was saying, I took this to the belt sander. I refined some of the edges a little bit, especially here. I sanded this down so it's not as thick. Normally you're going to have about 12 millimeter, 10 millimeters of EVA. I sanded it down so it's around, I want to say it's around 8 millimeters now. And then from there I also sanded some of the edges, as well as all of the edges on the bottom and the inner edges of the helmet. The step that I'm doing now is I'm making another sandwiched 2 millimeter to 4 millimeter foam, as well as gluing in the earpieces. And after that, creating the little tabs that go throughout the rest of the face part of the helmet. And once that's done, it's a matter of just using the wood burner to carve out some of the other intricate details. Alright, once you've gotten the sandwiched 2 millimeter into the 4 millimeter, you chase out the patterns and transfer them over like so. You want to line them up with the helmet as much as possible, according to how the movie props are. And I guess you just got to do it by eye. I didn't create a template to really place them out anywhere. I am doing these just by eye, shooting it off to as close as possible as I can. Like so. You want to line them up with the helmet as much as possible, according to how the movie props are. And I guess you just got to do it by eye. I didn't create a template to really place them out anywhere. I am doing these just by eye, shooting it off to as close as possible as I can. So what I did is I placed them, and then I traced out the area where I was going to apply the glue. Is not that large, but this is a good size for him. It gives him a little bit of breathing room. If it seems to wobble around, all you need to do is add foam to the inside of it, and it's going to give him a good enough breathing room, for at least, because the 65% printout is very snug to a medium-sized head. And here's your two sizes, large and medium. Or I guess you could say this is more extra large. I'm going to do another one at 70%, and it'll reduce it slightly, so it's not going to be too far off from in between these two. And the next part of the tutorial, I'll be using a wood burner into all of these little details. Okay, your next step is, once you've outlined all of the details based on your reference photos, you're going to want to take a soldering iron or a wood burner with different nibs to go and carve out these details. Alright, now that I've completed outlining all of the line detail, I've switched the tip to a rounded one so I can go ahead and finish up the last remaining. You can go ahead and do a measurement on all of this if you want. I'm just going to freehand it and eyeball where these would technically go. Forgot to in this one. And that's that. Right, another trick that you can do to get some of these lines, if you don't have a wood burner on you or a soldering iron, you can always use your razor blade and a heat gun. To do this, all you have to do is follow your detail lines with the razor blade. You don't want to cut too deep, but you want to make sure you do make that cut, the incision. You won't be able to see the incision from the camera, but you will be able to see it as soon as I heat it up. Now this is a good process if you want to get fine detail. I'm not sure if you're able to see that now, but you should be able to. Yeah, I can see it. The heat does open up the incision. You can definitely see it, and it gives you that fine line. The one thing you have to note though is that when heating this up, you also risk heating up any of the parts where if you do it for too long, you may burn it like I did there, or you may end up, if the barge or the cement has not cured properly, or if you didn't put enough on there, it may come apart at those seams. So you do want to take note of that and be careful when hitting it with the heat gun. But for the most part, you can see that fine line detail. And this is the example, the difference here. You can see one is with this wood burner. You can see a little bit of the burn, or cauterizing, I guess. And then here, you don't have any of that because it's a smoother line.